Okay, so we have a countdown. We were supposed to start at exactly 5 o'clock. So that's why. Okay, so we can start. We're live now.
Okay. Good day, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're joining us from. We're all welcoming you warmly to this beautiful webinar, the webinar on the 11th hour to the 11 plus exams, what you need to know. So it promises to be a very insightful and informative webinar, given the lineup of speakers that we have. So this webinar is being presented by AfriKindness, which is a charity organization, an NGO that is geared towards equipping children with skills on how to show kindness to self and others. So, and if you look at this topic, it's a very timely one, given that the 11 plus exams is just around the corner. And I'm sure a lot of parents are still anxious as to know whether they've covered everything they need to cover or whether their children are well prepared for this webinar. So without much ado, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Chinwenma Essien. I'm your host for today. I am a registered nurse in Nigeria and also here in the UK. I work with the NHS presently, and I'm going to be moderating this webinar. So welcome once again. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Join us. So wherever you are, please share these links so your friends can join from any platform. We have gone live on all social media platforms. Please make sure we join. So without much further ado, I'm going to go into the introduction of our panelists who are here with us. We are very happy to have all of them join us to give us more information about the 11 plus exams. So our first panel of speakers, the first on my list here is the CEO of Lextra Education Limited, and this is in the person of Mr. Jonah Olebo. Mr. Jonah is a qualified maths teacher. He has over a decade experience working with children and has recognized the challenges. He has recognized the challenges that children from minority ethnic backgrounds face in schools. His learning institution, Lextra, is a recognized Ofsted center that provides maths, English, and science tuition to all year groups, both online in Leeds and London centers. Mr. Jonah is currently a PhD candidate at Leeds Beckett University and the first recipient of Gertrude Paul Scholarship Award. Thank you again for joining us, Mr. Jonah. It's a pleasure to have you here with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the list of our panelists is a change consultant, founder, trainer, and the director of Parent Power Plus Limited, a virtual training group where she trains and empowers parents on how to effectively support children to excel in 11 plus exams. She has been through the 11 plus process herself after preparing her son for 3 different examinations, and he made huge successes at these exams. This is no other person than Esosa Ikolo. Esosa understands just how to sort change and shake up an individual. That is her field. She's a specialist in this. Her training unravels the intricacies of these unique exams in a step-by-step manner, providing people with knowledge that is needed and tools. Great to have you here, Sosa. We're very happy to have you in our midst tonight. Thank you for joining us. We'll be hearing from Esosa real life experiences of how to work with children. We'll get to hear from her as well the hidden yet obvious challenges they go through and what parents need to know. So you don't want to be missing out on this. So I'll be talking about our next panel speaker, a qualified primary school teacher. She's also head of primary and center manager at the Lextra Learning Center. Her name is Sarah Hayes. Sarah is also running a program in her master's in education, focusing on dyslexia. Sarah is going to be talking to us about the 11 plus exam structure, and she's going to be telling us how to support children as they go through these exams. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah, today. It's an honor to have you here. Our final panelist is an award-winning Skills for Life tutor. He has over a decade experience providing exceptional tutoring to children and young adults. His approach to problem solving is systematic and highly innovative, using fully tested initial and further diagnostic assessment tools. He's no other person than Mr. Dikbo Adeniyi. Dikbo was recognized by the University for Industry, UFI, in 2008 and received the West Midlands Learn Direct Achievement Awards. To date, Dikbo has inspired many unemployed people to achieve success. You're welcome, Mr. Dikbo. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Thank you for honoring us tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he'll be sharing more on exam techniques, what parents should look out for at the 11th hour to these 11 plus exams, and the common mistakes that both parents and pupils make that they should avoid to achieve success in these exams. So you can agree with me that we have a stellar lineup of speakers who are going to do an amazing job to this topic tonight. So thank you all so much for joining, and let's stay tuned. So before I continue on this, I would like to give a few housekeeping rules. Let's make sure we're all muted when we're not speaking so that we can all get the best out of this webinar today. And as our speakers answer the questions, we encourage you to please leave your questions in the comment section of whichever social media platform you're connecting from, and we'll pick your questions up from there and ensure that they are addressed as much as possible. Okay, so we are live. Please come on, get your friends to join us as we're going to delve into this discussion right now. Now, so what is this topic we're talking about? 11th hour to the 11 plus exams, what you need to know. For those of us who are teachers, who are parents, some of us have children who are already preparing for these exams. And there's still so many questions we're trying to ask that are not answered. And this is why we're trying to do this webinar so people can get answers to all the questions they've been asking regarding these exams. So I'm sure our speakers are ready for me to begin to ask the questions. So without wasting further time, I'll be asking about what is the 11 plus exams and who can write this exam. And then I'll be asking Sarah to please do justice to this question for us. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So the 11 plus exams are generally sat in the first term of year 6 in primary. So it's 10 and 11-year-olds who are sitting that exam. However, they start preparing for that exam in year 5. So it can always get a little bit confusing because they sit it in year 6, but they start the prep in year 5. The 11 plus exam is taken in order to gain entrance to a grammar school. All over the country, there's different grammar schools. All the different grammar schools will have a different 11 plus exam. Lots of them are very similar. I have lots of characteristics in place that's very, very similar. However, they are different. Generally speaking, there's 2 exam boards. There's GL and there's CEM. There's not huge differences between the two. Generally speaking, CEM is up north and GL tends to be taken by schools sort of London and Kent and that sort of places. Different schools place emphasis on different skills. So you get things like comprehension, writing, maths. All of those things come under the primary curriculum. What doesn't come under the primary curriculum is your non-verbal and your verbal sort of reasoning skills. Like I said, different schools place different emphasis on those different skills. You can sit more than one exam. There's nothing to say you can't sit different 11 plus exams for different schools, and where it can get difficult for parents in terms of prep for that is the emphasis that different schools put on the different skills. Some schools do band together and sit the same exam. There's an example of a group of schools here in Yorkshire that you sit the exam at a particular school, but it's the entrance exam for all 5 schools, which you could, if you get in, you could then choose to go to any one of those 5.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for that answer. So what Sarah has just said to us is that the 11 plus exams is a kind of exam taken by pupils in year 6 to go to a grammar school, right? And then, although they start preparing for these exams from year 5, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then there are 2 boards for these exams, as you've mentioned. We have the GL and the CEM. So there are 2 boards, 2 main boards, as you've said. And then pupils are allowed to sit more than 1 exams because there are probably different exams for different grammar schools, if I'm correct. Yeah, so I think I picked all of that bit. So just to emphasize it for parents. So what would you say happened? Are there grammar schools in every part of the UK, or are there some towns and cities that do not have grammar schools? And, if a child is in such a city, what happens if the child would like to go to a grammar school or something like that?
We have seen it happen where children have sat an exam for a school in, say, Nottingham, but they don't live in Nottingham. It does happen where if you've got a situation where you have a school that you want to go to, it might be that you have to move to get into that school. The big towns, the big cities generally do have a grammar school. Some places will even have more than one. But it depends on, it comes down to parent choice. If parents are willing to move for a particular school, it does happen. We've got a child recently who's just done all his 11 plus prep here with me, and he's sitting the exam in Kent in 2 weeks. It does happen that people move around. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely helpful. Yeah, I'm sure this would help a parent who is wondering, okay, there's no grammar school where I live, and I want my child to go to grammar school. So, my next question for you, Sarah, would be, what's the difference between the curriculum for the 11 plus exams and the standard curriculum for, a regular school?
The main difference, and I say this over and over and over again when I work with parents about the 11 plus curriculum, the main difference is the challenge that is involved in it. So the English that children are expected to be able to do, whether that's reading or writing, they're expected to read really high-level texts that they wouldn't necessarily be exposed to within the primary curriculum. The skills are the same because they're still expected to summarize, to retrieve information, to infer information from a text. They're still expected to do those same things, but the level of vocabulary in that text is that much higher. In terms of maths, that's why I always say, if you're going to start preparing your child for 11 plus, wait to sort of January of year 5, because the primary maths curriculum works in a spiral and it gets harder and harder as he goes along. But there is things like ratio, circles, algebra that comes up on the 11 plus exams that children in year 5 and just about as they go into year 6 aren't taught yet. So the big difference is in the expectation. They're expected to know material a lot earlier than they would be exposed to it in a normal primary school curriculum. Non-verbal reasoning and verbal reasoning isn't taught at all in primary school. So that element of the 11 plus curriculum doesn't come up at all. So they'd be, if you're preparing your child, generally those are the bits you need to focus on, because the English and maths they'll be getting at school as well. Does that answer that one?
Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah. You've done justice to this one. So it's more like the expectation is higher for children, going for the 11 plus. So they're exposed to higher vocabulary, higher maths, level of maths and all of that. So that's very clear. Thank you so much. So I'll move to the next question, which is about why 11 plus exams? Are there benefits of these exams or these benefits that have been experienced, with parents? I would say, what's the outcome of children who do the 11 plus exams and children who do not do the 11 plus exams? I think that's a way of putting it again. So, Mr. Dipo, I would like you to answer this one for us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Can we hear me? Can we hear me?
Yes, we can. I can
Okay,
hear
all right.
you.
All right, thank you. Now, talking about the benefits for the 11 plus or the grammar school, why do parents need to consider this is something that I want my children to attempt, either taking the exam or going to the grammar school? To be very honest, there are lots of benefits. There are a lot of benefits. And I'm going to look at it this way. Number one, if we ask ourselves, why, maybe as individuals, as an adult, why do I want to study more? Why do I want to be educated? Is because I'm preparing myself for the future. And the same way, it is the future of the children that we are preparing, or that the parent is preparing, is working towards when it comes to the preparing them to undertake the 11 plus exam that will eventually get them into the grammar school if they are successful. Oh yes, definitely it involves a lot of preparation, finance, personal preparation from the parents, the readiness from the children, a lot of things. But all this, they all pay off at the end. The number one thing I've said is, number one, you are preparing the future of the children. Now, I'm going to move into the next point is there was a research in 2006 by the National Grammar School Association, and it comes up that there are about 164 grammar schools across England and places like Scotland, Wales, I don't think they do have the 11+ system. I mean, the grammar school system. But in England alone, there are about 164 schools and totaling about 176,000 students. Now, in a particular year, they compare the results. I mean, all the students that were able to produce grade A. You have the results from the 164 grammar schools. They produce more than half of the total grade A that was achieved that year. And when you compare it to the normal other grammar schools, they look at it, the 164 grammar school to about 2,000 different comprehensive schools. So it comes to the same thing, preparing their future, giving them giving them a very high grade. And I would say in addition to that is you are preparing the confidence and building the confidence of the children, not only about maths, English, verbal reasoning, and not verbal reasoning alone. You are preparing their future, you are building their confidence, and they can step out from there and achieve a lot in life. In fact, I think there was another research sometimes ago that if you look at the total number of MPs in the UK, I'm not sure the particular year, that you have about 58% attended combination of grammar schools and independent schools. So where you build the confidence as a child is like, I mean, let me quickly use this example for instance, please.
Mr. Deepa,
Time is gone. Sorry.
the way you are dissecting this topic.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you so much. I'm
Okay,
so
sorry.
sorry. If I'm even enjoying it. I'm wishing I could continue listening to you,
Okay, sorry. Just let
but
me
I'm
stop for
so
now.
sorry.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry that I have to, just step in because of time
Thank you.
factor, so we can
Thank you.
touch other
Thank you.
topics. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you.
You're really doing, you were on top of it, but I'm so sorry that I had to cut in. Thank
It's all right.
you
It's
again.
perfect. It's
Thank
okay.
you.
All
Because
right.
we still have a lot of things to talk about. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So the next question I'm going to be asking would be about the structure of this exam. How is this exam structured? And does this exam have a provision for children with special educational needs? Sarah, can you help us with this one, please? Thank you.
Okay. So the exact arrangement and the exact structure of the exam will depend on the exact school that you're wanting your child to go into. For example, nearby there is a school that do an English section, a math section, a non-verbal and a verbal, and they sit 2 sections, have a break, sit another 2 sections. The timings are really, really tight on those separate sections. Whereas another school that's sort of just down the road take a bit more of a relaxed approach in terms of the time it takes the kids to sit that exam and what they do with that exam. They're given a comprehension text to read, and then they're given time to write a creative writing piece and a maths piece. Different schools will structure their day that you go in for their exam, because the children will be invited to go to see the school on their exam day. Usually there's some sort of past pupils around there or current pupils around to show them around. They usually get to have lunch there and have lots and lots of fun in with it having the exam day. The exact structure comes down to that individual school. I'll just pick up on the other point about sort of catering for children with SEN. It all comes down to what that SEN need specifically is. There isn't a right or wrong answer when it comes to should children with SEN sit entrance exams. Any child can sit it. If they're capable of sitting it, they should sit it. However, it might be a conversation that you need to have with a school. If you're entering your child for an entrance exam, is there specific access arrangements that child is going to need? is that for their specific SEN need, do they need coloured paper? That could be an easy access arrangement that a school could provide to allow that child to take the exam, because it's just something as simple as that. Or it could be something that they can't accommodate. You'd have to speak to the school on that, because they would have somebody in charge of making that access arrangement in order to allow that child to sit that exam if you wanted that child to sit that exam.
All right. Thank you very much again for doing justice to this question. Yeah. So it depends on the particular school. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to what Sarah has said. I
Okay.
believe you also need to indicate it in the application form when you're making it at the beginning to see the exam, so that it can be
Okay.
followed up by a physical contact to the school. But the local education board needs to have it documented for it to be
Oh,
valid.
beautiful. Thank you for that addition, Esosa. Thank you again. Okay. So next will be, I'm sure that's very clear. So it's a very clear, it's clearly explained. So I won't be doing any recap on that. The next question is, in fact, from the first few questions we've responded to, I can see that this 11 plus exam is a highly competitive exam. It's like it's very, very competitive. It's not for people who are not ready to read or do the work, put in the work, I would say. So, but however, there have been concerns that in certain schools, some children or some pupils find out that they are just the only person or the only person in their class, yes, who is preparing to sit for that sort of exam. And that in a way tends to affect the child's interest. It's like, "Oh, everybody's not writing this exam. Why are my parents asking me to write this exam?" Right? So why is this so? Why is it that we don't have the whole class or half of the class sitting for this particular exam? And what do you think parents can do to, boost their children's interest? Mr. Joda, I would I would like you to answer this question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Chumema. So in answer to that question, I think some of the speakers have pointed out the fact that not every parent knows about 11 plus exams. You'll be amazed, and Sarah knows this, you'll be amazed how many people get to year 6 and say, oh, I want my child to do the 11 plus exam. Sadly, it's too late, because even though the exams happen, say, first couple of weeks in year 6, most schools will have expected you to register like 6 to 8 months before the exams. So parents just don't know. So it affects the number of people that do them. And some people just don't care. Some people tell you, I don't necessarily want my child to go to a grammar school. And it might be for the right or wrong reasons. I would say grammar schools probably are not for every child. And I'm genuinely always honest with parents, especially if a child is struggling for different reasons. So the fact that lots of people don't know, it means that lots of people don't actually do the exams. Now, how do you get your child inspired to want to do it? My simple answer to that is talk to your child. I think the challenge sometimes as parents is that we tell the children what to do. We don't ask for their buying into the process. And whether you like it or not, no matter how young your child is, it's their education. Treat them like you respect them. I will sit the child and say, we really would like you to go to a grammar school, because you talk about the school's ratings, you talk about the results of the school, you talk about the post-school destinations where the children that finish those schools usually go to. Just explain the importance of being in a grammar school to your child. Explain the fact that it gives them a good chance to do well in education. It gives them the opportunity to work with a lot more highly motivated students. It's about the environment. Most of the time, when you explain this to your children, they will buy into it. And I think that's really the best way to encouraging them to say, we want you to do this because we believe is right for your progress and for your future. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for that response. Talking to your children, getting them to buy into it. So it's not like you have to impose it on them because you are their parent. You need to explain it to them in a way that they will understand and then see reasons with you. That's very, very important and very key. I hope we're taking note of this because I'm also taking note where I am because after this, I need to go back. All right. Let's move on. We'll move on to the next. Um, Now, Mr. Jonah has just led me into the next question, talking about parent support. Sometimes we see parents like, oh, I can't do this thing. I'll just find a tutor. I'll just pay a tutor and then let them fix it, let them get it all sorted. But we've realized that a lot of children struggle. They struggle. And if we look at the time they spend with the tutors, they spend more time at home with us, the parents. And that's why the tutors can't fix it all. I don't think they can. So it's important that we're talking about this so that parents can learn from a parent and also someone who has tried this with her children, who has walked her child through this. And as I introduced earlier, it will be a SOSA taking, responding to this particular question for us. So SOSA, what's the role of parents when it comes to this exam? What would you say, the role of parents is? Thank you.
Thanks, Chinwe. Parents have a multifaceted number of roles in the success of their children in the 11 plus exam. And I like to see it as we wear many hats. And I like to also go back to the basics, which is the home front. We need to prepare the home to make it a conducive learning environment for our children. I'm sure you'll be wondering, what if I'm not the one tutoring my child? You still need to make it a conducive learning experience or environment, even without you tutoring your child. And what do I mean by that? It needs to be a place where there is build and balance, where there is love, where there is emotional stability. You don't expect so much from a child who comes home and the home is in commotion every time. They would rather stay back at school. So you see, it starts from us ensuring that the right ambience is in the home environment. And then let's move on to us as parents. We wear so many hats, like I said earlier on. One of the hats we wear is we are their number one educators. When our children were born, we gave birth to them. We began to tell them, say mama, say dada, say cup, table. Those are teaching moments that we have with our children. And it extends even so when we begin to teach them about education or about life. So we are their first role model. So definitely, their first educators. So definitely we play a big role. We're also their role models. You can't expect your child to be academic, or you can't expect your child to be serious about their studies, and you don't show any level of seriousness in your life. We need to pattern and model what we expect from them in every way that is possible. I strongly believe that if we empower the parent, we empower the child. So the onus also lies on us to know or learn a whole lot about the 11 plus exam. When I started with my child, I knew nothing. Honestly, I only overheard about the 11 plus in passing, and I got curious. I began to research and find out so much about it. Yes, it could be overwhelming, but you need to dedicate your time and be a present parent. Because if you're not present, you simply cannot support your child. Even when you have a tutor on board, you will hear from tutors. You've already started hearing from tutors who are speakers here. It is a partnership we have to make, first with our child and then with the tutors. We know our child better. Earlier on, Chinwe said we spend more time with our children, and that's the fact. If you research it, our classroom teachers spend about 19 hours of classroom teaching with our children in a week. Now, compared to what we spend, it's over 4 or 5 times that. Imagine that. So we have a whole lot to do and to achieve with our children. So it starts by us getting the knowledge about the 11 plus, find out from people. You don't need to be a tutor. I'm not a tutor, but I was able to guide my child to teach him. And I know it's not for everyone to teach. And that's where it comes to you understanding your child's learning needs and their personality so that you can get the right tuition that is suited for your child. An example is if your child is a social learner and you go and say, I need my child to have one-to-one learning with a tutor, that child may struggle because they love to learn among other people. So we need to understand our children, and for us to understand our children that well, we need to spend time with them. We need to be at home, to be present parents. We need to be intentional. We need to make the sacrifice. It comes with a lot of sacrifice. It comes with hard work. All right. So partnership, understanding our children, being role models, seeking for knowledge, and honestly, the success of our children in the exam will be mostly guaranteed if we try to wear these hats and wear them adequately. So definitely we play a big role as parents. Train the parent, train the child. Empower the parent, the child gets empowered as well.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much, Esosa. That was well dealt with. I could pick things like partnership with the child and partnership with the teachers. There has to be a connection. It's not something to leave alone to the tutors or the teachers. It's a lot of work. Trust me, it's not easy because we wear many hats, as Esosa has rightly mentioned. But the truth is, if we get to the point where we know that these children don't have all their life to spend with us, I think is worth sacrificing for that period of time that they're still with us. We want to lay the foundation right. We want to, put them on the right path so that we can be proud parents tomorrow. We can say we've done our jobs well when we, see them in the future. So I think it's a sacrifice that is worth it. Thank you so much for that, Esosa. Thank you. So we move to the next question, which is going to be about exam anxiety and stress. We know that all of these things, even the way Esosa explained it, has explained it, I'm sure for both the parents, both the pupil, even the tutors who have to coach these children, I'm sure everyone gets their own fair share of stress. The tutors maybe some anxiety because they're like, oh, I hope this child does well so that my job can speak for itself. So towards the exam, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress, as I've earlier said. Sarah, what do you think parents can do, to support their children during preparation for this exam, just to make sure that they are both mentally and physically stable throughout preparation? Thank you.
Okay, so the one thing I will say, and I'll say over and over and over again, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you yourself, as the parent or as a tutor or whatever role you're playing, is struggling physically, mentally, as you're preparing this child for the exam, they will feel that. They'll take that on board. We need to be, just like Esosa said, we need to be the role model for that. Keep to a routine. I say time and time again to parents, children shouldn't be preparing all day, every day for these exams because they need to stay mentally and physically well themselves. Get them in after school clubs, running around doing sport. They might be the kind of kids that love drama. Create a timetable for your child. It means that they've got a balance across the week. Yes, we're going to do the little and often revision techniques. We're going to look at vocabulary for 10, 15 minutes in the car on the way to drama. We're going to look at, we're going to sit down and do a comprehension before you go to football training. But allowing that child to have a balance across their week is going to keep them mentally and physically well ready going into this exam. And recognizing and talking to your child about, yes, we need to pass this exam because it'll be a really good thing for your future. However, if we don't pass it, it's not the be all and end all. Have that conversation with that child to help relieve their pressure and their anxiety about it. In terms of like things to look out for as a parent as you get towards that exam, what we know our children the best. As a parent, you know that children the best. You spend the most time with that child. Start to notice their little changes in behavior. Are they starting to not want to read to you at night because they're starting to get anxious about it. Are they starting to act out a little bit that's not really normally their behaviour? They're trying to communicate that they're under stress, that they're anxious. The best thing you can do as a parent is to communicate with your child. You know them the best. Don't try and sit there and plough through a giant comprehension paper when they're already tired from school, because it's going to break down that relationship, because they're going to be frustrated, they're going to get angry. So scheduling that time and doing it little and often, and modelling to your child that academic behaviour, we've got a goal we need to meet, but we've also got other goals we need to meet. We've also got other sort of social activities that we need to still take part in, we still need to be involved in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So from Sarah's responses, we can see that the role of the parents cannot be overemphasized. This is not a role to be delegated, I would say. So you can't delegate it to someone and say, be the parent to my child. You just have to be there. You have to connect. You have to communicate. You have to find out what kind of child do you have, understand the child. So thank you so much, Sarah. I'm sure our audience are getting value for their time this evening. Please keep sending in your questions. I can also see that some of the questions have been responded to by the host as the webinar is going on. Please keep sending in your questions. Thank you so much. So we're moving on to the next question. And this next question is going to be talking about the concerns of parents. I know now it's the 11th hour, like we rightly titled this webinar, because we know it's just a few days away for some of these exams to kick off already. And I want to believe that so much work has been put into preparation, both by parents, pupils, and tutors as well, teachers. There has been so much effort put in. But I was speaking to some parents recently, which is one of the things that prompted us into hosting this webinar. They're still not sure that their children are ready. They're not just sure, despite everything that they've done. So what could be the reason, and what advice will you give to parents at this time, at this point in time, to just help them be able to pull through the exams? Mr. Jonah, can you please answer this one for us, sir? Thank you.
All right, thank you. I will be slightly longer in this one, but I'll try and make it brief. Now, if you, at this moment, you're really exasperated, you're not sure, you're confused, I think Sarah and Esosa have made some pointers really to the first thing I will say to you. Because if you're not taking care of yourself as a parent and you're frustrated and sometimes you are even angry, that's going to pass on to that child. I have dreaded sometimes when I've worked with children in 11 plus and just seeing how tense the child is, the mom is in the background, do it now, do it now. That's never going to help a child, never. You will not get a better result from your child by harassing them, okay? Just relax, because if you relax, that child is going to feel a lot more better. You know yourself as an adult, you put in your best when you're in a good mood, when you're relaxed. You need to create the environment around your child, because this last few days and couple of weeks matter a lot. Give your child the space to thrive, affirm them, tell them they're amazing, tell them they're going to do well. They want to hear positive things, because it's that positive vibe that will get them going. If you're putting them down and say you can't even do this question, you're not going to get a good result. I just want to make that really clear. Don't forget that they're your children. Whether they pass or fail an exam is really important. And I know I'm saying this to my African parents because I'm one myself. Let's make sure that the well-being of our children is number one priority. Now, so having said relax, I would say encourage your child to do the best they can. Okay, just say to them, I believe in you, do the best you can. I have two of my daughters have gone through a grammar school exam, and I have to keep my voice down now because they will be close by. For my second daughter, it was slightly more tricky. At a point, I had to step back and really just was encouraging her. Okay, I stopped you have to do this from this time to this time, because I knew she was getting up to a tipping point. And you don't want that for your child, because suddenly a child who is really clever will just fall apart because they are under too much pressure. I don't know if my presentation can be put up, because I just want to use this to make a couple of examples. The final one I will say is the idea of being prepared, having good preparation. And I don't know if I can be helped at this point, because I'm not sure what to do. I want to use that presentation to just make a quick point about, I don't know if anyone can help with getting the presentation up. All right. I'm not getting any response, so I'm at a loss. Whether what I wanted to do with this presentation really was to show. Let me see if I share, if it's going to work. No. Okay. In order not to take more time, I wanted to show, like, there are little tricks that are helpful when preparing, especially for maths, because the big deal is time. Most students complain that there's not enough time. And the trick to not enough time is actually some little techniques that actually students can use to make sure that they have enough time for their test and they don't run out of time. I'll need to stop here now because the presentation is not coming up. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jonah. I'm so sorry that slide is not up yet. I'm hoping, I'm hoping we are able to get it up maybe at some point. Yes, it's up now.
Okay. All right. Just give me 1 minute to quickly explain what I'm trying to do with this one now.
Okay. All right.
So these are examples of questions that kids will say, oh, I need a lot of time. So what's the average problem with this question? The kids are actually trying to calculate what 16 times 30 is. Write it down. Find what 8 times 60 is. Write it down. Whereas what they need to be doing is just comparing the left and the right-hand side. That first question, 16 times 30, greater than 8 times 60. They've halved the first number, 16, and then they've doubled the second number. The two sides should actually be equal. That's a 5 seconds thing, okay? They don't need to calculate all the answers. The second one, 15 times 30 is less than 30 times 15. Again, they've just swapped the numbers, or they've halved one and they've doubled the other. Again, that question, both sides should be equal, okay? The next one, 20 times 25, and then on the other side, 10 times 12.5. They have halved both things on the left-hand side. There's no way it will ever be equal to what's on the right-hand side. So that's how that third one goes. Then if you look at D, 18 times 24, they've halved the first number and they've doubled the second number. So if I half and then I double, I've evened out. So the answer to that question is D. It does not take 5 minutes to answer this question. It only takes less than 30 seconds for a child who has been well prepared. So that's how they help themselves with the time thing. This one is very easy. A sequence is that you get the next number by timesing by 4. If you times a number that ends by 1 by 4, you get a 4 at the end. If you add 1 to it, you get 5. So the numbers in this sequence will only either end with 1 or 5. The odd one out there is the last option. Done. That is 10 seconds. That, again, is not a question where they're trying to use algebra to figure it out, okay? It's just thinking about the process. That's 10 seconds. So they do have enough time. This final one, again, A plus B is greater than C. If you look at A and B greater than C, that's possible because they're asking for what is definitely not true. C plus B, if you look at C and B, is equal to 18. Yes, it's possible because we don't know what the actual numbers are. Okay, they don't need to write it there. The next one says B is greater than A plus C. If you look at B and A plus C, there's no way in this world that B will be greater than those two together. Again, that's another 10-second question. And they don't need to even bother with D or E if they are confident. Sometimes the tricky question has the answer at the top. If they are confident, if they feel the answer is A, go for A, go to the next question. That's how they save on time in the exam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jonah. I think you just put all of us in a maths class just now. You just you just took all of us into a maths class. Thank you so much. I'm sure parents are feeling the same way I feel. You know, just done some little maths. Thank you, sir, for explaining that so succinctly. So next question would be, all of this, I'm sure everyone has done so much already, like I've said, and it's last minute. So, what tips can we share with parents, especially like revision tips? Some I know Mr. Jonah has just shared, which some people might be able to pick immediately, while some may not be able to pick immediately. But what are the last minute revision tips that we can share with parents at this webinar today so that they can, put this to work with the little time that they have? Sorry about that. Mr. Dipo, can you help us with this question, sir? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chinwe. Now, I have few tips here that I want to talk about. Number one, this is the 11th hour. There is no massive preparation that could be done at this time, but except revision and just checking up. Sorry, not the slide. I will come back to that. Thank you. So sorry about that. Not the slide. I want you to slide now. Now, there are things we can do just to check up on what the student has been doing so far to strengthen their confidence and their overall performance at the end of the exam. One, you can begin to identify, is there specific areas that they are still struggling with? You are not dealing with the entire curriculum this time. For instance, questions in math, something on ratio is a sure banker is coming up. Percentages is coming up. Prime factors, LCM, they are specific topic like that they cannot escape it. Percentages, ratio, there are some of them. So you want to give the final 11th hour revision, double check their understanding. Do they really get this very well? Number two, what I often do with all my students is you can use what you call the online mock tests. Bonds, there are quite a lot that you can have a lot on the website. They are not tutor marked. Just get them there, sit down, 1 hour, do the test. Then we now look at which are the specific areas they are still struggling with. Then you now give explanation. You can get a tutor to do that. And also, I think, I can't remember, I think maybe I saw somebody else mentioned that this is not the time to frown your eyes. This is not the time to scare them. You don't get it, this is what is going to happen like an African parent. No, this is the time you want to be their best friend. Let them do 1 hour, go for a break, go for something, have something to eat. They are also aware that their mind is being prepared to be their best when they go for the exam. It is not a time to be sleeping late. It's not a time to, you want them to have the maximum concentration and their self-worth at this time. So those are what I think I put down as the last minute revision tip. Also, it's very, very important that you are now timing them. timing them. A lot of students knows what to do, but they maybe take time, maybe they can't complete it on time, and the examiner will not wait for them. So begin to be testing and check, okay, maybe 5 minutes. There are a lot of things again on the bond. I use the bond a lot, that you have this 10 minutes test, either the paper based or the online, and also get them also to read to you. I do advise the student, don't read a passage because you want to get to the end. Read to understand what you are reading. You understand what you are reading, this is what this question want me to do. It becomes easy. A lot read so fast, this, they get to the end, they don't understand what they are said, and they go to put in something wrong. So I think this is where parents can come in also. Give a very small booklet, let them read it, listen to the way they read, ask the question, and just, yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those tips, Mr. Dikbo. So you talked about the online test. You also
Yes.
talked about parents connecting with their children and finding out the areas that they're still struggling with, which is very, very important, because sometimes the tutors, like I said earlier, they spend just 1 hour or maximum with these children. But if the parent is able to follow up, they can give feedback to the tutor and say, this is what I've observed my child is struggling with, and then the tutor knows, how to even help. Because if they don't know how to help, I mean, they'll just teach the child like every other child without knowing that this child is struggling. So thank you so much. I hope we've all taken note of these tips that he shared. Time is not on our side, but I'm going to try and run as much as possible. So for future 11 plus exam parents, I'm sure some might have made some mistakes out of ignorance, and not knowing, like Mr. Jonas said when he was answering one of the questions. There are people who don't even know what the 11 plus exams is about. Like me, the first time I saw adverts about it, I thought it was just for 11 years. I was clueless. I didn't know anything until, it was an advert that I saw, and then I contacted them, and that was how I got information and I understood what it was about. So what's the future advice you can give to future parents who are thinking, okay, from this webinar I've learned and I've seen the benefits of children writing this exam. I would love for my child to be prepared for this exam and sit for it in future. What advice would we give parents to avoid, the last minute pressure, the last minute, rush? Mr. Dikbo, can you answer that for us, please?
Yes, thank you very much. Please, if the slides could come up now, if it's possible, just to give us an idea. No, that's not mine. The one that says 11 plus maths. Thank you very much. Now, to give us like an idea, some of the topics in mathematics that is meant to be covered. On the left-hand side, you have some that place value, addition, subtraction, multiplication, about 20 topics. It could be more than that, but I've just picked some. Now, if I picked one of these, let's say decimals, for instance, move it to where I put the arrow in the front. Questions on decimals could come to about 21 different subtopics, right? And I can do the same thing on each of the topic from place value to the 20 mixed bag. So that means if I have 20 on 21 subtopics under each topic, 21 times 20, that's about 420. Now, how many days in a year? 365. There's no way on earth that you can cover that from beginning of year 5 to the beginning of year 6. It's simply not possible. This is only mathematics. We haven't talked about English, verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning. My best advice to parents, start early. Primary 2, primary 3, there's nobody stopping you. You can get some of these things online. Take it one after the other. Let's say, for instance, addition of decimals. You can do that in a week and make the student comfortable. You build their confidence. Move on to the next one, subtraction of decimals, multiplication of decimals, division of decimals. So this is a very strong advice. I've been involved in Level 4 for quite some time, and I know that this is where the problem is. You want to do all this in year 5, you frustrate the student, you make them disinterested, and how many of us adults can face this within a year ourselves? So, so the best advice which you know can never fail is start as early as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dikwo. That's very, very, detailed. It's answered in details. I'm sure a lot of parents here must have picked that up. Start early. He who plans to, he who fails to plan, they say plans to fail. So you need to start, sit down, count the cost. If this is something you would like your child to go for, start early. Start asking questions. Find out what you need to do. Find out tutors. Find out the materials. We'll try to share some resources here. I think Mr. Dikwa has mentioned some of them as well while he was answering his questions. And I would also like to thank the speakers because I can see that they're already responding again to some of the questions that are being posted here. I hope the people who have asked these questions are taking note of the answers as well. Thank you all very much for still staying with us. Yes, we're almost getting close to, I know if we continue this, we might not finish, but yes, we'll get to the next question, which is talking about exam day. We've talked about things, revision tips before the exam. Sometimes you realize that people have prepared well for exams, but for some certain mistakes that they make on the exam day or some factors, they end up, missing it despite putting in all the work to prepare before the exam day. So, Esosa, I'll be referring this question to you. What are some of these mistakes you think pupils make on the exam day, or maybe even the parents might make the pupil make this mistake? And how would you advise parents and pupils to avoid these mistakes on the exam day? Thank you.
Excuse me. I think the first thing I'll say here is calm down. Moms and dads, calm down. You have put in so much effort run up to this day. Don't spoil it. All right. That's the first thing I'll say. The other thing I want to say is we need to encourage our children. You have heard the speakers refer to that a number of times. We are their biggest encouragers. We should be mindful of what we tell them all through this journey, and especially days run up to the exam. So the exam day really is the outcome, is the result of what we have been doing or sowing into them run up to the day. And I look at us parents, as the key factor here, even though it's our children that will be writing it. I know a story of a little girl who got to the exam ground with her mom, and she held on to her mom's thighs and says, "Mom, I don't want to write this exam. Please don't make me write this exam." Now, there are multiple factors that can be responsible for that child's reaction. But you see, it's a lot of the responsibility is on us to tell our children, it's not a do or die. I'll still keep loving you even if you don't do well in this exam. As hard, hear me, as hard as that may sound, because you want them to do well, but you need to tell them, even if you don't mean it, you need to tell them, they need to hear it. When I say even if you don't mean it, I mean, even though you know you will be sad if they don't do well, tell them. Because sometimes our children mask their feelings and we think they're all right, but we need to encourage them. So on the day of the exam, they need the right mindset, which starts from days before and from even the night before. Mr. Dikwa said something like, it's not the time for you to allow them late night or something like that. It's not even the time for you to let them try a new meal the night before. Because on the day of the exam, it can show up as diarrhea or one form of illness or the other. It's a day where you should let them dress comfortably in their best clothes. I still remember my son asking if he could wear his new pair of trainers we just got him. And I said, "Oh, yes, please, anything that makes you happy," because I wanted him to be happy. And as we got there, in fact, another tip is get there on time. All of these factors play a key role in their comportment at the exam. And when we got there 1 hour before, so we just chilled, we're chatting. And I remember this short clip that normally makes him laugh. So I played it for him and his brother in the car, and he laughed. I intentionally played that video clip. It was about 40-something seconds because I needed him to relax. He's always looking very confident and, I'm okay. But they're still humans, they're still children. But I didn't want to take that for granted. All right. So also, we need to let our children know that as soon as they get into the exam hall, they should look for the clock. There's usually a clock somewhere in the hall. And if there is none, they should be attentive to the instructions on timings. And that also means they shouldn't be too slow or too fast, because they will make mistakes. Now, all this comes from preparing them with time management tips prior to the exam, where they do papers. I think one of the speakers mentioned it. They need to be practicing on exam papers in a timed environment. That gives them a feel or a feel, for how the real exam will be. Is it 10 questions and you are giving 5 minutes? If they are used to it, working at that speed, it won't be a new thing for them when they get to the exam. Another thing I just want to quickly touch on is the fact that they have to carefully read instructions. If you misread it, you will misanswer it. You need to identify keywords. Identify the key of the operators that a question is asking. Are they asking you to do some addition and subtraction? Or are they asking you to do a division? Do you think you need to use big mass? These are so key things that a child needs to be prepared to do. And it comes with calmness. So we are instrumental to helping them to be calm. I mean, to a large extent, to some extent, it lies in their hands at the end of the day. But yes, we play a role on this. And one last thing I'll say, Chinwe, because I know my time is running out. Let your child know that it's a battleground. I say that quite lightheartedly, but I mean it. Let them picture them on the battleground. When you're on the battlefield, you don't go smiling and say, hello, I love your trainers, I like your bag. No. Focus. Keep your head down. Only lift it up to glance at the clock if there is one. It's a battleground. When you're done with that, you can say hello outside the door. All right? So these are some of the tips that have worked for me and for some of the parents that I have also helped.
Wow. Thank you so much, Esosa. So I picked calm down parents, because we're very, very instrumental in the kind of environment we create for our children. And it all starts from home. We need to be able to manage our emotions intelligently, even if the children are not doing what we want them to do at that time, even if we feel they're not going at our own pace. Someone was saying to me she feels her daughter is not serious, even though her daughter is preparing for this exam, but she's so playful. So it means that this child probably has a kind of learning style, and something different works for this child. So it's important that we're able to calm ourselves down, because this is not the time to begin to undo a lot of things. But yes, we can make the few days or weeks to this exam count. We can put in our best to make it as positive as possible. So support your child. It's not a time to harass your child. It's not a time to highlight your child's weaknesses. It's a time to support your child, to affirm your child. Let them know you believe them. Let them know that you trust in their strength and their capabilities. Let them know that they can do it. And teach your child focus. Like Esosa has just said, it's a battleground. So survival of the fittest. We're at war. She's saying it, but yes, she means it, even though she's saying it very, lightly. So another thing is get there on time. I think this one is a very, very important factor. That way you can remember and make sure, for me, I think it's plan ahead of time. Make sure the car is working well. If you need to fix anything in the car, if you need to top up fuel, if you need to anything, just make sure that days to the exam you're already sorted what your child will wear, make them be comfortable in what they want to wear. It's not a time to impose rules and instruction on children. This is very important. And then it's very, very vital to begin to try these children in a timed environment. That way they are very familiar with managing their time when it's the D-Day. Thank you so much for your response, Esosa. So sorry, I muted myself mistakenly. I'm sorry about that. So I can see here that Mr. Jonah has put a response regarding resources. He says cgpbooks.com is a very good one. but find out whether you need the GL or the CEM books. So please take note of this because they have versions for each exam board. As Sarah said, in general, down south, most schools do the GL exams, and up north, most schools do CEM. But please find out. So please, whoever, I think we all need this information. So let's take note. So yes, someone has asked about moving to, another city. Yes, there are people who have told me they're going to move because they want their child to go to grammar school as they are in, locations or areas where there are no grammar school. So if this is something that is essential to you and essential to your child's future, I think is worth giving it a go. Okay. So we're down now to the final bit. We've talked about the exam day. So after the exams, I'm sure there's a post-exam time. There's a post-exam period where we've done this exam. We've gone in, we've sat for these exams. There's anxiety. Did I do well? Did I pass? How should parents manage this period with their child? And what is expected of parents to do at this time? Is there anything to do after the exams? Is just to sit down and wait? What should we do after the exams? Thank you. I would ask Esosa to answer that, please. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, after the exam, of course, is the waiting game. But I like to see it as an active waiting game. So you wait for the results to come out. The results usually come out from between 2 weeks to a month after the exam. In fact, they come out, in my mind, they come out much quicker, but I guess it's really between that time frame. And I said actively waiting. What do I mean by that? It's a time for you to do your research. If you've not discovered as much as you need about a particular school of interest, this is the time to find out, because at the end of October, I think it's the 31st of October every year, you are expected to make your school choices in what's called the application form, the common application form or the local authority form, where each parent is expected to select up to 6 school choices, all right, in order of priority. For you to prioritize your school's choices, you need to know about the school. So it's a time to find out about the school. And if you've already found out about the school, good for you, but you need to know which one you're going to prioritize, because come the result, you need to fill that form and submit it by the deadline. Another thing I advise parents to do also is to find out about, if you're interested in bursary or scholarship, find out about what the school offers, because certain schools, especially the independent grammar schools, they provide such things. So this is the time to find out. Also find out about the uniforms, the cost of the uniforms. Some can be ridiculously, I'm trying to say that word now, priced. So it's good to know or have an idea of what they cost, because it means you're prepared. And I cannot also end this without telling you to give your child a well-deserved break. Yes, I'm going to pause as I say that. Give your child a well-deserved break. They have been working hard. They need to experience the difference between working towards a goal, meeting the goal to a large extent by sitting for the exam, and rest. They need to experience it and reward their effort. Don't wait till the results come. Reward their effort. It will mean a lot to your child if you reward their effort before the results. And then imagine if they do so well. You can even go all out to give them another gift. And if they don't do as well, you have sent a message that you remain my child. The 11+ exam will come and go, but you remain my child. So you need to earn their trust and their belief in you. I also say that because they would have covered so much of the year 6 curriculum, they will get bored when they go back to school. They will get bored. I still hear my son's voice in my ear saying, Mom, my teacher went on and on and on and on about one simple topic. And I chuckled because I knew that's because he's been taught it, he's been tested, and he's been tried on those topics. So this is a time where you need to speak with your class teacher. Hopefully they will have lovely support system and personalities to hear you and figure out, work with you on how to support your child. It may mean they will have to give your child a higher level of difficult questions to keep them engaged. There's so many things a school can do. A good school, there's so many things they can do. And what else will I finish off here? Yeah, that's really the bulk of what I have to say, And remember also, remember that there is the SATs. In as much as for those who have passed or who will pass the grammar school exams, won't need to go into a comprehensive secondary school, it is a good behavior or mindset to make sure that they are still preparing towards the SAT. So after that period of rest, remind them that they have their SATs in Key Stage 2 in Year 6 to write. So that gets them focused again to another goal, even though they will not use it, but it just keeps their minds engaged. So, and you can use the leftover 11 plus resources that you have. I'm sure there will be 1, 2, 3 books that your child didn't completely exhaust. So those are also resources that you can use to keep your child engaged when school is providing them with something below their level of difficulty. I hope this helps.
Yes, 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 of course. I'm sure it does help. Key things is post-exam is a period to give your child a well-deserved break. That's very, very important. This child has worked really hard and needs to rest, both physically and mentally. Now, reward the child is another thing. You don't have to wait to see that the child has passed the exams. Very, very key. Encourage the child, reward the child for this effort that the child has made. And then it's a time to make school choices if you haven't done so earlier on. It's also a time to find out about the school if you have also made a school choice, find out about, the school rules and regulations or what they would like you to know about, so you can start preparing earlier on, and so on and so forth. Thank you so much, Esosa, for that. So I can see that Mr. Dikbo has responded to a question here, which says, how do you prepare a child from year 2 or 3 when some of these topics will not yet be introduced to them? And I hope the audience or whoever has asked this question has gotten answers, because I can see the answers are already, he's responded to it in details. Thank you, thank you, thank you very, very much. At this point, I'll say thank you to all our speakers for a job well done. Thank you for taking time to, your time to do this with us today. So there are some common mistakes parents should avoid during the 11 plus preparations. And that we can see on the slide, which is saying not studying together with child to form a study habit and time. So please take note of these common mistakes and ensure that, we avoid these mistakes as parents. Thank you to our audience, everyone who has been here. I would like to use this opportunity to say that if you were not able to ask any of your questions today, or we haven't been able to answer your questions, please feel free to send these questions to the email address info@afrikindness.com. We'll get your questions and we'll find a way to respond to these questions as soon as possible. So I'll just take a few minutes to talk about Afrikindness, which is the charity organization that has hosted this event today. Afrikindness, a brief introduction about Afrikindness is that it is a pioneering non-profit organization that was founded in 2021. And it is founded out of the desire to foster more awareness of kindness amongst children and young people, not really exclusively, but children and young people of the Black and minority ethnic group. So, and the impact strategy for Afrikindness is to advocate, is to inspire, educate, and empower people to be kind to themselves and to also show kindness to one another. Because if you look at the world we live in today, It seems we've lost every atom of kindness in the world now. So it's important that the generation coming after us are taught how to be kind to themselves and to others. So we support stakeholders, we support people to make critical decisions during the formative years of children. So it's more of an organization that supports children. And that's why we bring you webinars like this to encourage parents as they raise their children so we can have a world full of happy children and kind children. Thank you very much once again. At this point, we have our social media handles. So you can follow us on all our social media handles. As you can see, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Telegram. So we have also a parents Telegram group that we're trying to build up just to help parents stay in a community where they can get information to support them as they go on their parenting journey. So if you would like to join this Telegram group, we're going to leave the link in the comment section so you can just click on it and join the Telegram group. We'll be sharing their information and then, of course, anything that is relevant and important to parents as they go on their parenting journey. Thank you very much. So with this, I would say another massive thanks to our speakers. It's not easy, to get them out. They're all very, very busy people. But I'm grateful to you, Mr. Dipo. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Mr. Jonah. Thank you, Esosa, for being here. I'm sure our audience have gotten value for their time, and I'm sure they'll be asking for more. So please feel free to share your emails or your handles so those who would like to get in contact with you after this webinar are free to do so if they would like to have further, contacts with you. We are happy to have you share your contact details or your social media handles, whatever you have as a means of contact, please feel free to share so people can get in touch and get, continue to help their children. Thank you all so very much. So with this, we'll be coming to the end of our webinar. But before that, I would like to ask the speakers, pardon me, to just give us, their last minute, if it's just a sentence, just one word for parents to take away from, or for the audience, because I'm sure that not everyone here is a parent. Some might be teachers who have just joined. So just give us your last minute, tip and advice before we close this webinar today. Thank you very much. So who goes first? Mr. Jonah?
I think
Thank you.
thank you so much, Africanness. You guys are amazing. I'm genuinely proud of the work that you do because I think it's well needed. I don't want to go into a long trip now, but what you're doing is just an amazing piece of work that will actually make a difference based on lots of research that has gone into the challenges that children of color and Black parents have generally. So proud of the work that you do. My last piece of advice is I sent an email out to parents last week. And in that email, I said, parents are the most important success factor in a child's learning, not the schools, not tutors. I'm sad to say that because I run a tuition company, not anybody but you as parents. Because if you show interest in your child's education, you find out what's going, you stand with them in their challenges, you can actually help them thrive. But don't forget, they're not just students, they're first of all your child. So do not allow the performance or non-performance to affect your relationship with your child. Thank you and God bless.
Wow. They are first your child. So whatever happens, they remain your child, and you must continue to support them. Thank you so much. Next, I'll go to Sarah. Sarah, let's have your last minute advice. Thank you.
Perfect. Like Jonah said, thank you so much for having me. Hopefully you got lots and lots of ideas about 11 plus and how to support. My thing I say over and over and over again to parents, reading. I am an English teacher at heart, but there's so much that you can get from just reading with your child, whether that's you modeling reading to them, reading together, reading for understanding. They can pick up so much from verbal reasoning, so much non-verbal reasoning stuff from just reading. You might just think, oh, they're not really doing anything. They're just reading with me. But it's hugely crucial. And you as a role model for that and showing your child, well, this is what it means to be interested in my education and to better myself with everything that I do. But yeah, thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So modeling, reading, those two things I picked up from Sarah. Thank you so much. Should I say ladies first? Because I have a lady and a man. So I saw, please, Mr. Dakwa, I hope you're not offended.
No, not at all.
All right, Asosa.
I'll say if it's not working, change your strategy, change your approach. All right. And also be true to yourself. That's one of my mantras. To thyself, be true. Know when something is not working, know when it's out of your depth, and seek for help. And lastly, every child is different. Do not treat two children the same because they come with their own uniqueness. Don't try to be like the Joneses. Learn from them. That's what I have to say. Thank you so much, Afrikindness, for having me here.
Thank you so much, Asosa. That's very, very apt. So, Mr. Dipo, can we have yours, please, sir?
Okay, thank you very much, Chinwe. Just as mentioned earlier, please, let's realize that the purpose of this 11 plus grammar 2 or no grammar school, the purpose is to give the best for the children, prepare them for the best. I'm going to be very honest. Even though I'm a tutor, I teach to support children to grammar schools. My two children, they are both in grammar schools, but that does not mean that if they do not get in, that is the end of the world. Please, no. What is most important is let's go back to the drawing board. Pick all these topics one after the other. If they don't get in, irrespective of the comprehensive school they are, still continue that constant support up to the GCSE. I have students that do not get into grammar school. They've achieved the highest grade I've never seen in my life. I'm serious. One of them just graduated from medicine just, I think, a couple of months ago. So don't look at grammar school that, okay, if it doesn't happen, that is it. It's constant support, that home support development. I think is that Jonah that mentioned the parents, either giving them a tutor or relating with them. That's what is most important. Thank you very much, Afrikindness. I deeply appreciate all what you are putting. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all our audience. Thank you to our speakers again and again. We do not take this for granted at Afrikindness. We are very grateful for everyone who have connected to this webinar today. We want to really, really appreciate you and want to encourage you to please follow us because there's more to come. We have loads and loads of, amazing things in store for parents and for people out there. So thank you all again. And I'm sure everyone has gotten value for their time. On behalf of Afrikindness, I want to say thank you again for joining us today. And I can see that the speakers have all put their handles in the comment section. So kindly get in touch with any of them that you feel like getting in touch with, and then continue your relationship from there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with this, we've come to the end of today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you some other time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye.